of Living Word TV podcast. Today we're going to be discussing about something very important, a bit personal as well, but very significant in the society that we live in. We're talking about mental health and well-being. And on the panel today, we've got two experts that really know about this topic in and out. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Sister Ibukun. Am I right?
Yeah, thank you, Sister Mo. My name is Ibukun Olabisi Adekolu. I'm a registered nurse, registered mental health nurse, and a practicing mental health nurse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Ibukun. Yeah. And then I'm going to be introducing you to someone very dear to me, and that's Dr. Tomi. She's also the head of our women's department.
Thank you very much, Sister Mo. I'm Tomi Dahunsi, and I'm currently in GP training. And I've got a special interest in mental health as well, and I've had the opportunity to discuss with people about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tomi. It's very interesting. You know, over the last 2 years, we've all been in some form of lockdown. Our mental health, to an extent, has deteriorated. You know, there is a recent statistics that 1 in 4 will experience a mental health problem of some kind in a year. Not over their lifetime, but in a year. And we know how much our mental health has also deteriorated during this lockdown. One thing that I really like to understand is, what is mental health? Why is it so important? Can you just tell us more about it, Sister Ibukun?
Yeah, I'm just going to give a brief explanation of what mental health is, and I would quickly explain some bits about it too. Well, mental health is the state of emotional and behavioral well-being of an individual. Emotional, behavioral, and social well-being of an individual. Because if a part of it is not functioning well, for instance, someone is fine emotionally and maybe socially, but behaviorally you're not there. Your behavior could hinder so many other things. Your behavior could also affect your emotions, because Absolutely. The way people accept your behavior will determine how you react to them. So it's a state of emotional, social, and behavioral well-being of an individual, and we've got different forms of it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sister Ibukun. And I really like that analysis: emotional, social, behavior, and well-being. Those are I see them as very unique areas that we need to address in order to really become a whole self of who we are and bring out the best out in who we want to be. But before we go deeper into, the mental health, and then later in the session we'll be talking about the well-being and how to improve your mental health. But I just really want to understand, when we talk about mental health, especially some of the problems associated with mental health, it's still a bit of a taboo and a stigma. If I'm not feeling well and I've got a headache, say that it's been running for 3 weeks, I'm more likely to call my GP and say I don't feel well. Yeah. But when it comes to mental health, I feel like there is still the stigma and taboo around it. Can you just try and explain to us, why is this taboo still existing, particularly in our church and in our Black community?
Thank you, Sister Mo. It's sad that we still have this reality happening around us, which shouldn't be. Mental health should be taken as seriously as we take our physical health, and people should not be judged by that, by the fact that they're experiencing something. Like I would usually just say, if you've got a part of your body that has a problem, or that you're going through pain, you go talk to your doctor about it. But now, what is affected when it comes to mental health is your brain, and in conjunction with your mind. And so it's just like, okay, you're going for a eye treatment, and that's how it should be taken as, okay, I'm going to treat my mind, to treat my mind, to treat my brain, just to put it in the literal term. And people shouldn't feel bad about talking about it. I think people should come out and be able to speak about how they are feeling without being judged necessarily. I think it's very important for people to understand and realize that, bottling stuff up is not the best way to get out of it if you've got mental health issues. And unfortunately in our Black community, because there are so many talks about mental health, people people are meant to not talk about it, and they associate it with someone having some spiritual attack or coming under
Very
some demons.
interesting, yeah.
And unfortunately, we've heard of cases whereby back home where I come from, people that have mental health struggles are being taken to churches and being asked to be, they will actually beat out that demonic spirit out of
Absolutely,
them.
and I'm glad you picked that up, because that's an area that I would like us to tease out a little bit more during this session. But I absolutely.
And you see that, you hear that they say they beat this particular person to cast out the demon causing the mental health. Whereas if the person had gone to the hospital to seek medical care, maybe placed on some antidepressants, the people in church are praying alongside with that, and have some form of psychological therapy, give or take 4 to 6 months. The person comes back being in the right state of mind. And then some people label them with all sorts of names, calling them witches, demons, under that. Whereas what is actually happening is because their mental health is affected.
Thank you for that, Dr. Tomi. I really appreciate, how you were able to bring that out so much, that the stigma still exists. And, in the past, we've done things differently. People go into church and thinking, depression or mental health problems are associated with, the devil, or maybe there is a spirit that controls it, which we're not denying because we are a church. But we are going to come back to that, but I just want us to go back a little bit and really understand what are the different types of mental health problems that are around. How can people understand the signs, the symptoms? How does it exist? We know of a few that they're very obvious to us, but what are the other different types around?
Now, going to the types of mental illness, before I delve into that, I would like to give a brief explanation about something. Let's ask ourselves a question. If you have a fall today, what would come to your mind first?
I'll definitely be saying, well, after, depending on how bad it is, the next thing would be for me to either call 111, 999. I'll be on the phone to my GP at 8 o'clock in the morning because I want to get better.
Now, and I put another question to you. When you feel emotionally down and you feel, I feel emotionally, I'm not feeling too good emotionally, and it's affecting your sleep, not so bad, but it's still an emotional thing, and you feel a bit lonely and all of that, what do you do first?
Traditionally, if I'm being honest, because I'm a bit honest with my own mental health nowadays, I've had struggles in the past. The first thing I'll do is I'll try to pray about it.
Thank you.
I'll try to see
that is what I want to hear.
What can
Thank
I
you
do
very
from the
much.
Bible?
Thank you very much. That's a very good thing. It's good because, like I would say, even in health, you can't rule out the spiritual aspect of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I would say something, just like when you had a fall and you thought of calling GP, why didn't you think of praying at that moment first, before calling the GP? Imagine
That's
someone
a very
having a
interesting
big,
approach
imagine
to it.
having someone having a big laceration, and you're looking at you bleeding, and you think, okay, God, please let this close. Fine, God would answer your prayer, but you need to act. Faith without work is dead.
Absolutely.
That's what the Bible says. Now, for people with mental illness, they don't find it easy to come out because of the way people accept them. There is no acceptance. Physical health, mental health, as of now, they are still not at par.
That parity
Because
of
the
esteem
parity of esteem is still not
differently.
there. The difference is still much. And why do we have this? Because of the misconception about it. Some people believe mental illness as a result of effect of influence of the sun. That's why they call them lunatic. It's sun, lunar, right? That's why they call them lunatic. But what we fail to believe is that we all know that the brain controls all of the things in this body. Is the main network, is the main center that controls every activity, even as we speak, as we sleep, as we walk, everything we're doing.
That is very interesting that you said that, because I think when it comes to mental health, we always see it from traditionally from a spiritual point of view. We never really think this could be psychological or physiological, or that it's connected to maybe chemical imbalance in our body. From a medical perspective.
You just nailed it, because I was going there, and I was just going to give another illustration before going to the neurochemical imbalance. when someone has got high blood pressure,
Yeah.
you know the blood pressure has gone up. You know it has to do with the heart. And you tell yourself, oh, no, I need to rest. With this high blood pressure can come down.
Yeah.
Same thing, just as there is high blood pressure, high blood sugar level in the body, same happens in the brain. When there is an imbalance, high sugar level is when there is an imbalance in the insulin and insulin that is supposed to absorb the glucose, isn't it? Now, for mental illness, when there's an imbalance in the neurochemicals in the brain, there could be a disturbance in the behavior and the emotional well-being of that person.
That's very interesting.
And now that would take me to the types of mental illness. I just had to put that so that we understand what happens in the brain when there's mental illness. It is not always, oh, the demons have casted a spell on this person. No. Most times, the little ones we see aggravate to be the big, to get to the big ones because we don't nail it at that point in time. And when there is an imbalance, it gets to a stage where we have a surge. To control it might not be easy at that point in time. It will take a longer time to control it. So now, for types of mental illness, we have a lot of people suffering from depression. Bipolar affective disorder. Bipolar, I mean two poles. It could be depression, it could be mania. Mania is that's the person is really elated, the mood is on the very high side. When you see them outside, you're like, oh, that's just our way. That's just our way of doing things. Most of them are, when you see people like that, they are very, very, I don't want to use the word lousy, but they are highly extrovert. In fact, you see the high level of extrovert in them. They talk a lot. Their dressing is, oh no, when you see, you would know you that this person, even if you love the dressing, you know this is excessive. You know?
But we don't really see that,
what we see is
because
that...
people hide. I think that one of the things around mental health illness and problems is some people are very good at hiding it. It's not just about... Some people, it's very obvious that they're sad, it's written on their face, but a lot of people, especially in our community, in the church and in the black community, we've been told to always be tough. Try not to show so many emotions.
And say it is well when it is not well.
And say it is well when it is not well, when it is
And this happens mostly amongst the men, because for women folks, we talk a lot. We talk a lot. If a woman is going through an emotional imbalance, maybe the person is depressed, we're not even talking about mania because most times it's anxiety, depression that is really common these days. When someone is depressed, like a woman is depressed, if she finds someone she can talk to and confide in, she's ready to let out.
Sister Ibukun, before we start talking about how we can treat it, I just want us to really go down into understanding what it's like, Dr. Tomi, can you just tell us a little bit more about some of the signs? Some of what do people say? Sister Ibukun has mentioned about, those extreme poles of the maniac and the depression. But when it comes to anxiety, even things like OCD, anger, some of these extreme behaviors, what are the signs when someone is struggling with mental health, especially in our community? I keep referring to our community because that's what I'm passionate about. We have been brought up in a way that we don't talk too much. Everything that we do is guided by the church, which is great. But there is depression in the church. There is anxiety in the church. How can we spot that? And what are the signs that people can look out for among their brethren?
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Sister Mo. The signs to look out for in a person who is, I would like to start first with depression because that is what can easily be missed. Sometimes is, if I would classify it like this, let me start from cradle to grave. From in a child growing up. It's usually quite common around the teenage age when they're experiencing some body changes and they're trying to find their identity, trying to understand where they're coming from.
And sorry, just to interrupt in terms of that. So statistics actually show that about 16% of people between the ages of 6 and 16 are being classified as being psychologically unwell in this society. So, I don't think, and just to buffer what you're saying, mental health is not something that starts at an adult age.
Yeah.
It's
No.
some of the signs that start as, as children, as adults, as teenagers. So it's really good that you're able to tell us that actually this is something we need to start looking at from a cradle perspective. So carry on. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. So, really, there's some things that stand as kind of risk factors that can predispose a child to having mental health. Things that can be ranging from, parental separation, loss of loss of either of the parents, maybe, undergoing some socioeconomic, changes. Maybe some people might have problem with housing, and also growing up also in the environment in the community, bullying in school, and some adverse childhood experience. Childhood trauma and abuse of any sort. It could be emotional, it could be sexual, it could be physical assault and all that. And sometimes as parents, sometimes we transfer aggression unknowingly on our children.
Oh yeah.
And all these things, it's all these things are built up emotions. A child, and where we come from, the black community, like would emphasize on. We've been some of us have been brought up not to be able to express how we feel because we are meant to kind of suppress it. When you kind of express it, you're being seen as being too forward, something like that. And then a child grows up and rapidly starts to lose the self-esteem.
Yeah.
And things such as a child who is previously active starts withdrawing. Those are red flags. You should be worried. A child who ordinarily would be playful and active. A child who would normally have interest in doing some pleasurable activities. Maybe a child who is always excited about going to school suddenly just comes home and says, "Oh, mommy, I don't feel like going to school. Daddy, I don't feel like going to school."
And those are some of the signs that we need to start picking up instead of thinking, "Oh, you're just being lazy."
Yeah, that is not the time for you to say as parents. That is not the time for you to say, "Oh, you're being lazy." Oh, you. Sometimes, we might have to sit down to listen to our children.
Listening to our children, I like that.
It's very important to listen to them, hear their perspective. Listen to what they have to say. Sometimes you might get to realize that they are going through these things, they are not able to talk, and then they bottle it up, and then as they grow, they start losing their self-esteem. Then that's for a child.
Yeah.
And going into an adult. And now for adults, when you're losing interest in pleasurable activities that you would normally do, and all of a sudden you're starting to lose sleep, you're not happy, things just suddenly bother you, you feel weighed down, you don't want to go out, you're not eating well, and you just have this loss of energy, loss of drive, At that time, when you're noticing this kind of subtle stuff, it can be following, maybe an adverse event, maybe a grief or something, It's time. That's the time for you to kind of talk out, and it's okay to struggle.
Yeah,
it's okay to feel that way.
Struggle.
It's okay to feel like that sometimes. But what is not okay is when you don't talk out, and the thing now degenerates, and you start having complications from it. And that is how it progresses. And when things like that are not acted upon, it leads to loss of self-worth, feeling of guilt, and then the person feels, "Oh, I'm not. Should I be living? Am I not worse off being dead?" And
this
then
is
leading
so
to suicidal
relevant.
thoughts.
I like the way you're making it very pragmatic and very. These are things that we see every day, but sometimes we don't necessarily associate that with maybe someone is going through a very tough time because most people in our lives, everyone is going through something. Doesn't necessarily mean it's anxiety or depression, but it's about the little things and how they snowball into bigger things.
And then you have some people have suicidal thoughts, and then go into substance abuse and so many other things. You see someone who is not maybe been drinking or something, someone who is not having a particular activity they've not been, a bad activity they've not been doing, and then they just start doing it. We just look at the person, but not necessarily digging out to find out what is making this person act this way. It's the reason behind their actions that you should actually look for. And for some people, they are very good at talking it out loud, and they will speak it out. We all have our different coping strategies. I, for one, am someone that if something is wrong with me, I talk it out, and that way I feel better. But then you have another person who can't even talk. But you notice it, you see it, you observe them. Sometimes just, asking, "How are you doing? Hope you're fine."
And I really like that idea of, approaching them and asking, because I think one of the things that we're lacking is in terms of that awareness. And there's always that fear of, how do I even confront this person? to say, how are you feeling? But, in a church environment, especially as we are in the Living Word Liberation Center, we are a family.
Yeah.
And if anyone is going through anything, they are always encouraged. We have different activities, and, being part of a team is some of the ways that people can alleviate or, offload some of the concerns that they have.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Sister Tomi. But I also want to come back to Sister Ibukun in terms of the different ways that men and women experience some of these mental health issues. Because we know some men naturally, and, again, going back to Africa, and, the man as being that tough guy. And one thing I've also noticed ever since the pandemic ended is the number of grown-up men that are talking about mental health. What can we do? What can we do to make that conversation a little bit louder, among men? Because, like I said, we all experience this differently. What can we do? It's just a conversation for people to be able to feel comfortable with that. Although I'm a man and there is this stereotype that is attached to me as an African man, what can we do to just drive that awareness, especially within our powerful and strong and, amazing men?
Yeah, one thing we should understand in all of this is that mental illness is no respecter of anyone.
I like that.
It is.
Not of gender, not of age. Just like we found that it's getting common in children now,
Yeah.
and teenage age. And like I said earlier, women talk more,
Yeah.
but men, they, because of the ego,
Yeah.
they keep things to themselves. They feel they can do it, or I can handle it, I'll manage it. If I'm sharing my problem, it's like a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Like I'm weak. I can't. I'm not man enough.
Absolutely.
And that makes them bottle things a lot. And if we look at statistics these days, the rate of suicide amongst men and women is, for men is higher now.
Wow.
Is higher
Okay.
than that of women
That's very
now.
interesting. Wow.
Because
Okay.
they bottle it so much to the extent that they have, let me say,
Becomes
the
overwhelming,
brain is
doesn't
full and they are so overwhelmed. It comes out with the overwhelming thoughts takes over and they can't even help themselves again.
Yeah.
And the only remedy will be, let me just end it all. And that's really bad. It's really sad.
Because there's no
So-
outlet when you bottle it up.
Yeah,
isn't
there's
it?
no
Especially for men, when you're not talking about it.
It's just
you know,
like when
we've
you
been
put-
emphasizing on talking a lot.
You know the Coca-Cola bottle we use back home. When you shake it
When
so
you shake
much
it,
and
yeah.
the gas is
Pressure
so much, the
builds up,
pressure builds up, and before you know it, it could explode.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So for men, we need more of awareness for them, more of
How can we
psychoeducation. I would
draw
say.
that awareness? What can we physically do, in our environment, in our church,
Yeah.
to really bring awareness to a certain group of people that are more susceptible
Yeah.
to some of these mental health problems? Because, we already see some of the barriers that we're facing in terms of the expectations on this men in the society, especially where we're coming from. And
The expectation is so high.
What can we do to help them? Yeah.
I
Now,
think.
okay, sorry, let me just say something here. What I would just say is, just like we're having a program like this, it's not easy for men to come out and to show their expression in front of opposite gender.
Yeah.
It's good they have a gathering. When they have a gathering, they're able to, most of them are able to let out.
So like a men's group.
A men's
whereby
group.
They feel comfortable.
They feel comfortable and, and they have an
acceptance.
expert who talks to them about it. You'll be amazed at the questions that will be coming out from men. You'll be amazed at the way people would be contributing, and some could even break down emotionally. Tearing out there,
absolutely.
and you see like, oh, so this person has been going through all of this. One thing they should just